the most expensive, coldest, and most remote mountain on Earth, is also the only one where no one has ever died. Meanwhile, the mountain that looks the easiest on this list claims multiple lives every single year. So among the 7 summits, which mountain is truly the most dangerous? Today, we're ranking the 7 summits, from peaks you can walk to the top of, to mountains where a single mistake means there is no way back. But before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. Let's begin. 7. Mount Kilimanjaro. From high above the African plains, one mountain rises completely alone. No ridgelines, no neighboring peaks, just a massive volcanic cone cutting through the clouds. At first glance, Kilimanjaro doesn't look extreme. And that's exactly why it surprises almost everyone. Standing at 5895 meters, it's the highest mountain in Africa. Yet technically, it's considered a walk-up. No ropes, no glaciers to cross, no rock climbing. Most climbers start around 1,800 meters and walk through rainforest, moorland, and alpine desert before reaching ice near the summit, just 300 kilometers from the equator. There are multiple routes, some with huts, others more scenic and longer for acclimatization. But here's the catch. The danger isn't technical skill, it's altitude. Each year, up to 5,000 people attempt Kilimanjaro. Many don't take enough time to acclimatize. Altitude sickness, failed summits, and evacuations are common. And yet, fatalities are extremely rare. The death rate is often cited at around 0.03%. It's one of the safest major mountains on Earth. Not because it's easy, but because it punishes arrogance, not skill. 6. Vinson Massif. Buried deep in Antarctica's interior, just 1,200 kilometers from the South Pole, lies the most remote summit on this list. Vinson Massif rises to 4,892 meters. It's brutally cold, completely isolated, and logistically insane. You reach it by flying from Chile to Union Glacier Camp, then by ski plane to the base of the mountain. There are no towns, no rescue infrastructure, no alternate routes. And yet, this mountain has something no other 7 summit can claim. 0 confirmed fatalities. Not because it's easy, but because everything here is tightly controlled. Only experienced operators, no independent climbs, no shortcuts. The standard route is a long glacier ascent through deep snow and constant sub-zero temperatures. A single expedition costs between $45,000 and $55,000. Cold, remote, expensive. But compared to what's coming later, Vinson might actually be the safest summit on this list. 5. Karsten's Pyramid. Deep in the jungles of Papua, Indonesia, this next summit doesn't rise from ice, but from sharp, exposed limestone. Karsten's Pyramid, also known as Puncak Jaya, stands at 4,884 meters. And unlike the last 2 mountains, this one is technical. To reach the summit, you must rock climb. Exposed slabs, fixed ropes, and a Tyrolean traverse across a massive gap near the top. But the climbing itself isn't the hardest part. Getting there is political instability, permit shutdowns, weather delays, and extreme logistics. For years, climbers had to trek for days through rainforest, swamps, and remote territory. Today, helicopters are often used, but even those aren't guaranteed. In 2024, shortly after reopening, one climber died from hypothermia during descent. Fatalities are rare, but access alone makes this one of the hardest summits to even attempt. Cost? Anywhere from $30,000 to $2,000, not the tallest, but easily one of the most complicated. 4. Aconcagua, towering over the Andes near the Chilean border, stands the highest mountain outside of Asia. Aconcagua rises to 6,962 meters. On paper, It's often called the highest trekking peak in the world. No ropes, no glaciers on the standard route, no technical climbing, but that label is dangerously misleading. The real threat here is altitude, wind, and exposure. Climbers grind upward for days through loose rock, high winds, and brutal cold. The final push, the canaleta, has drained countless climbers just meters from the summit. Each year, about 3 climbers die here. That may not sound like much until you consider how many attempt at thinking it's easy. Cost ranges from $3,000 to $7,000. Accessible, affordable, and unforgiving. 3. Mount Elbrus. At first glance, Mount Elbrus looks harmless. Cable cars, snowcats, huts partway up the mountain. At 5,642 meters, it's the highest mountain in Europe, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. The standard route requires no technical skills, but weather here is brutal. Whiteouts can erase the trail in minutes. Temperatures plunge, wind speeds become lethal. Every year, 5 to 10 climbers die on Elbrus, not because it's hard, but because it looks easy. Guided climbs can cost as little as $1,200, attracting crowds and underprepared climbers. It's not the hardest summit, but it might be the most dangerously misunderstood. 2. Denali. Denali doesn't just rise high, it rises violently. From base to summit, it climbs over 5,000 vertical meters, more vertical relief than Everest. Standing at 61 to 90 meters, Denali sits near the Arctic Circle, where cold and weather amplify everything. Climbers haul sleds, cross crevasse fields, endure storms with temperatures dropping to minus 40 degrees Celsius. There are no porters, no fixed support system. Everything is carried by hand. Since records began, over 130 people have died on Denali. The fatality rate is roughly 0.3%, significantly higher than Kilimanjaro or Aconcagua. Permits are cheap, but guided trips cost $6,000 to $12,000. This is raw, physical suffering, and for many climbers, the hardest mountain they will ever face. 1. Mount Everest. Finally, the list reaches its inevitable conclusion. Mount Everest stands higher than any point on Earth at 8,848 meters. Above 8,000 meters lies the death zone, where oxygen levels are so low that the human body begins to shut down, no matter how well acclimatized a climber may be. Over 300 people have died on Everest. Some years, 10 to 15 climbers perish in a single season. And in recent years, crowds have turned the summit into a bottleneck. Traffic jams, delays, climbers waiting in place while their bodies fail. Budget expeditions start around $33,000. Top-tier climbs can reach $9,000. Everest is the highest, the most famous, and the most morally complex mountain on Earth. Everest is the highest mountain on Earth. It is also the most famous, the most crowded, and the most controversial. For some, it represents human ambition at its finest. For others, it stands as a symbol of excess, where money can buy access to a place that remains fundamentally hostile to life. More than any other mountain, Everest forces a difficult question. Not whether it can be climbed, but whether it should be, and at what cost. The real cost. So what would it actually take to climb all 7? Even on the low end, you're looking at over $100,000. For most climbers, the true cost is closer to $13,000 to $18,000. That's not just money, it's time, risk, and sometimes, lives. Conclusion. Which summit surprised you the most? Which one would you attempt first? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.